All right, so here we have a e-ink phone / maybe tablet from Bigme. It's a cool looking device. We're gonna go through it. Let's take a look, check it out. I'll tell you what it's like to use an e-ink device and then how the screen compares to a Kindle itself. All right, let's check them out. Alright, so today we have the Bigme Inheriting Classics Breaking Through Living. I don't know what this is. This is basically an e-ink phone, sorta. I mean, we're gonna use it like a little tablet, but I can get it out of this plastic. So they did send this to me, but it is something I have a very distinct use case for. Very nice packaging. It's got the option, a little pull tab here to get it out if I can get my big fingers on it. And then a couple of sticker guys. I don't know what this is. Oh, like a SIM card removal tool. So it's made to be like a phone. Oh, that's pretty cool. It has like a hard plastic back here. That's nice. They did send me a case for it in the box. So this came in its own box. It's just a clear little flexible Bigme case that will fit on here just fine. But, oh, let's see, it says Bigme, it says power off. That's nice. But again, we're probably just gonna use this around the house, so I probably won't use the case. So you got USB-C port on the bottom there. And then on the side we have, I would assume, power button and a volume button. And then we do have a camera on the back. I can't imagine we'll get much use out of that. And then a little tiny button over here and then a SIM card tray. So we just spot for an SD card and a SIM card. So that's nice. So let's just see if it has any juice. Hold the power button in. Let's see. There we go. So it's coming on. I'm gonna go ahead and plug some power in to see how it handles it. That's cool. Like the words are kind of lighting up there, see? That has 96% battery, doesn't need anything. So there are multiple language options, of course. We're gonna choose English. So it is touchscreen. I'll hit English and see if it changes. All right, so yeah, it changes to English, that's good. Seems to be a fairly responsive touchscreen. So yeah, it's a Wi-Fi network. Let me add it to my network. All right, so we did connect to it, and then now it has little directions on here. So slide upwards from the bottom edge of the display, and then swipe inside, on the sides there to do it. So it's a nice clear screen, easy to read. That's if you want to log in. I don't know what you're logged into there, so we're gonna skip that. And then that's if you want to use contact to them, of course. We're skipping that too. I'm not gonna log into anything just yet. All right, so there's the home screen. So it is in color. I don't know how much that color is gonna come across. There's an update available, so let's go ahead and do an update. So it's downloading the update. It's a good example of seeing text on the screen, right? So the text is very readable. I have a Kindle, not a colored Kindle. There's the colors. You can see they're very faded looking. So I have a Kindle that I use. My son reads graphic novels, manga. So he reads them on his phone, right? And I thought this would be a good option to read them on, right? It's gonna look more like a comic. He reads comic books on his phone too, right? And I figured this would be a better option for him. Easier on his eyes. I'm in my 40s and my eyes are fine, but I've had a lot of time looking at screens, and these kids are looking at screens more than I ever did, so you gotta protect their eyes. These devices should be better on your eyes, I think, in theory, and I think the color looks nice. Like I said, when I read a book, I read it on actual Kindle, so we're gonna use this similar to the Kindle, but using it for he has some apps that aren't in the Kindle store to read his graphic novels and manga. What's that app you use? Shonen Jump, and sometimes K-manga, and the Amazon Kindle app. So those may be on Kindles, I don't know, but he's used to reading it on his phone, like in the, these kids, they have their phones for everything, right? Like personally, I use a regular phone, but then I have the Z Fold, so I fold it up and I use the big screen, and this is about the same size as a Kindle, so I use both. He uses the S25 Ultra, the S24 before that, so he's used to normal phone size reading, so I thought this would be a good shot to try it out. I believe this works like a regular cell phone. Personally, I don't see the use case for that. Maybe if a regular screen hurts your eyes, I know some people get headaches from the phone screens. Maybe those folks are good options for, but personally for me, I can never see me using it like that. This is a way I could use it. So let's get some updates in here. We'll get logged in and we'll check it out, and I'll give you some feedback later. All right, so at this point, we've had this phone for a few weeks now. Let's get a few things clear up front. Bigme did reach out to me and send this to me, but it was something I was generally interested in. I might get a lot of offers for stuff, tons of garbage, some cool stuff like this guy here. Yeah, at this point, I generally don't accept things if I don't have some level of interest in it. But also, Bigme is not paying me or asking me to say anything specific in the video. They just sent me the device, and actually, I think they were expecting a video a lot sooner, so they were probably mad at me.
I got you, homie.
This YouTube video is gonna have, of course, the sponsored notification up in the top corner, but that's just because I received a free product. You have to choose that if you received anything of value, but it's not a paid product placement. Anyhow, let's get to the device. In the few weeks that I've had this device, there have been multiple system updates. To me, that's a good sign. It shows they care about the product and they're trying to improve it. Battery life has been amazing. That said, I did not use this like a phone or a daily driver, but it did just gonna get some use and sit on my desk for an extended period of time. And I don't have any exact battery figures, but the battery life to me is on another level compared to a normal phone. You know, more like a Kindle or something like that, right? Because the e-ink uses a lot less power. In the initial unboxing video, I mentioned that was pretty responsive. I should clarify, it's responsive as compared to something like my old Kindle Oasis. But if you think it will be as fast as your iPhone or your Samsung, you're gonna have a pretty bad time. So let's look at a few things on the device itself. So this is kind of like the screensaver. There's a couple of different options you can change. I kind of like that. This is just the regular like home screen, right? There's no like major, and you can kind of swipe left and right, so you can see how, you know, sort of responsive, but not like blowing you out the water. It's a lot to cover here, but like right here, you see it says navigation ball right there. And you can sort of maybe see on the side piece right there, there's a little bubble next to the whole one, right? And when you click on that, it gives you a little pop-up that has, you know, various options there. I think LG or Samsung, someone had a similar option to this before. So, you know, you have an option to go home. You hit the bubble, there's a back button, there's a copy button, or looks like a copy button, but it really just takes you to switch between apps. There is this button that refreshes it, and this button is a screenshot, essentially. It will take a screenshot for you, so you can see there's your screenshot and your options to share it, save it, or crop it. Pretty good. This button right there in the middle, it will put those little up and down buttons on there. So maybe if you're reading a long article, it would help you scroll page by page. I don't really know what that does. I don't use that one. And this one, it takes you to the settings for the ball itself. So you can kind of change the buttons out there if you want. You can change the size of the ball. You can turn the ball off if you don't want it, right? And then this one controls your rotating, right? So if you don't want the screen to turn horizontal, you can turn that off and it'll just stick to a portrait mode. And then there's a power button in there so you can reboot it or shut down, which is, you know, fine. Like I said, in the ball settings, there is a home button and a back button, but you can add these like typical Android style buttons at the bottom, which is what I prefer, or you can just turn on swipe gestures in settings. Speaking of settings, you have, if you swipe over here, you get like your normal Android style settings, right? So you have data connection, airplane mode, screen. You can edit these, of course. And then you have a traditional settings screen. So there's a brightness and a volume. Now there is a cool couple two options here. They're not normal. Obviously the floating ball, but it has this speed up button that just kind of releases memory. So it just clears your memory, I guess, to make it a little faster, I guess. That's interesting to me. And then screen recording, which I can't imagine wanting to record the screen on this. I mean, I guess I could. Maybe I can do it for the settings. Let me try that now. Let's just start it and see what happens. All right, it's recording. Let's see how that works. I didn't know that was there. Hey, this is Mike from the future editing this. I do all the editing. My editor didn't do anything. He's lazy. So as I was recording that, I didn't realize that the screen recording of the Bigme was going to look like this on the screen recorded version. It's kind of neat looking, but it doesn't look obviously anywhere the same as the screen of the e-ink. I don't know why I thought the screen recording would look like the e-ink version, but it doesn't. It looks like a kind of like a fun Android skin. Anyhow, so just keep that in mind when we're showing in the video what the actual e-ink screen looks like versus what the screen recording looks like. So there's the buttons you can see in a better instance because I didn't have that up before. So if you scroll down to back to your settings button here, right? You have the stop recording button, and then the e-ink center is what I thought was interesting as well. So you can customize your settings for a default view. So change the color for what you're looking at, right? So it is color e-ink, but it's also, I don't know, not a high contrast. I don't know what to call it. Kind of like an old comic book. Oh yeah, and then if you go to the settings, it looks kind of like a Kindle settings, really, or like an old Android settings. But then if you scroll down here, there's a more settings button, and it looks like an old version of like Samsung or something. So I don't know why but these are the same options that are on the other page. I don't know why that is, because like you can see network and internet is there, and you know, there's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So it's the same settings, it's just kind of like bundled differently. And there's a weird like after sales service button. That's kind of neat. I guess that contacts, so you can contact their help. It's always nice to have that. And then there's like I said, more settings takes you to this other options that you already have. And then the display settings, so you can have an app widget. I don't know what that means. You can invert the colors, so that would make it like a dark mode essentially. And then you can show the battery percentage, and then you can change the font size. Oh, let's look at the screensaver options, right? So right now I had it at the clock, but you can change it to just be the Bigme logo, or like a snooze screen, or also the Bigme. I don't know the difference between that one and the other one, but I kind of like the clock. So like I said, the settings kind of look like a Kindle. Speaking of Kindle, let's take a look at a Kindle. So this is my Kindle Oasis. So I've had the Oasis for many years. You can see the leather kind of worn here. And then, I like this device because it has the physical buttons and Amazon doesn't make them like that anymore. So this one is kind of slow, right? So this is, you can see as you bounce around here, right? It's not the fastest anymore. At some point it was probably a good system, but for now it's fairly slow. These little Ringke stands are nice. I made a video on these. These are good for holding your phones up on your desk or showing stuff like this. So let's look at them side by side here. All right, so I've had the Kindle Oasis for many years. It's gotten a ton of use. I think it's a pretty great product, but actually one of the use cases I thought I would have for the Bigme is as a Kindle substitute. So for many years, I was a frequent business traveler. I took about 60 flights per year. I don't fly that much anymore, but I still travel a decent amount of time. And when you travel a lot, you try to limit the amount of things you have to carry. And while the Kindle isn't huge, right, it's still substantially bigger than the Bigme device. And it's too big to fit in your pocket. I mean, I could technically fit in my pocket, but it's not comfortable. Like, this is like a normal phone in your pocket, so it's, no big deal. I'm a large human being, and plane seats are not my friend. So I often like to read in a plane seat, and I thought it would just be slightly more convenient just to keep the Bigme in my pocket and then use that to read on the plane. Now, I haven't been on a plane since receiving this Bigme device, but I do have a flight coming up in a couple weeks. Well, you see what I'm talking about with the Kindle settings. So if you go to all settings, and then you go to settings here, they sort of line up the same, but not quite. But let's just compare it as a Kindle, because there is the Kindle app, right? So on Kindle has a neat feature. The Kindle app, you can put in a PDF. So this is the PDF for my Razer Tai Chi motherboard. It looks bad on both devices, really, but somehow it looks probably worse on the Bigme. But again, that's just uploading a PDF compared to a Kindle. So you can see on the Bigme, right? So let's take a look at an actual book. Well, here you can see, right? There's some color on the e-ink display, so it looks kind of cool. And there's no color here. So the books definitely look neater on the Bigme. Well, let's take a look at a book, shall we? Just learning Spanish books. Mike Benz, he's a YouTuber. I saw his video. I liked it a lot. It was a good video. So I bought his little book. So obviously there's going to be a size discrepancy. I have the max brightness on the Kindle. And yeah, I got it max brightness. So you can see, obviously the text is going to be larger on the Kindle because it's a bigger screen. I don't know how much it's going to come off on camera here, but the Kindle is a more yellow looking, and this is more of a white looking. So I actually kind of like the color there. Right now the size, again, it's going to be a problem for me because I like big screen. Personally, I use the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. So whenever I use the Kindle app on here, which I don't have currently installed because, like I said, I haven't taken a flight recently, it's going to be bigger on the phone, of course, than this. It's going to look best, depending on how you like it, right? So like what you like. So if you like the Kindle, it's going to look best on there. If you like a full color screen like this, it's going to look better on phone. But again, for me, one of the main reasons I like using a Kindle to read is because I don't get distracted by the phone stuff. And that's where this one actually technically has still other phone stuff. So it partially defeats the purpose of why I'm using a Kindle in the first place. Because when I have this in my hand, I'm reading a book. One, I think it's easier on the eyes to read on the screen. But two, I can easily swipe and check out any of my other apps, right? If you don't mind reading on this smaller screen, it will be a pretty good pocket Kindle, essentially, right? Whereas the Kindle is not pocketable, but the Kindle is a great experience. They sent me this case, but I'm not using it because I really like the back of this one, right? It's kind of like a fake leather, I guess, but I like it. I wish more phones had interesting backs like that. Let's take a look at the apps that come pre-installed here, right? So you have a calendar app, which is not Google Calendar. It's just kind of like a unique kind of plain calendar, but I kind of like it. It's kind of neat looking. You have a dictionary, which I find kind of neat. That there's a dictionary in here. I guess you have to download it first, but I don't really need a dictionary. But clock settings, again, similar to an Android clock settings, right? This is Samsung, kind of skins their things a little differently, I think. But so you have a clock, alarm, stopwatch, timer, which is sort of what, they don't have world clock on here, but it is similar to the basic Android clock probably. Gallery, so if you have some pictures. I did take some pictures with the camera. This will be a pretty shocking difference, right? So this is a picture of my beautiful dog Sadie, and I took the same picture with my Z Fold. You can tell greatly different. Now obviously you don't buy this and think it's going to be a great camera, although I've only looked at it on this screen. I'm interested to see what it looks like when you pull the file off and put it on a computer, which I'll show in the video here somewhere. And I do think, like saying, I also took a picture of my dog Simon. You really can't tell what's happening with Simon, but like on mine, you can see there's Simon's colors a little bit, right? And I'll put the raw pictures for both of these on the screen here. You'll see, you can zoom in, right? Obviously, it's not going to be the best camera in the world, but this could be kind of a cool effect, right? So if you wanted to use people use filters and all that kind of stuff. If it looks this kind of grainy on a regular picture, I could see wanting to use that for like an artistic photo. And let's go back to the apps. So we have Clock Gallery, OneNote, which I did install. They have their own versions of Bigme, so this is Bigme Voice to Text, which I think is kind of neat. They have these, this WPS Office Lite, and then it, like, just like a normal Android, you can hold on it and you can uninstall it. Like, I don't want that app on here, so I'm gonna uninstall that. There's a bookshelf app, which I assume is their default bookshelf, but I'm not using that. Google Play. So the Google Play Store is neat, and it kind of works. I mean, it mostly works, but I did find an app that did not work. So like if you search for K-manga and it says this app won't work for your device, but Shonen Jump worked, YouTube works. I don't understand why that one app doesn't work, but it doesn't. There's the app for the navigation ball, which we saw already. It's just changing the settings there. Screensaver, that's just the, when it goes to sleep. You can click on the time widget, right? And you can change it to 24-hour system or set your time zone, automatically set your date. So there's dictionary, and then there's color dictionary, which I think funny. There's the Kindle app, which we just looked at, the calculator app, which is a pretty basic calculator, but it does kind of look cool on here. Translator, so this is their, I don't think it's a Google Translate either, so it just kind of does, like you can speak into it and change the language. You can change your drop down here to what language you want to be, but it also had this cool mode, which I assume most translator apps have anyhow, where it has like, I guess you would hold it between you and another person and they would translate it for you. It translate both conversations at once. There's the settings app, which you already went to. File manager, which is just pretty basic file manager stuff, like an Android style. Bigme GPT, so it's like their version of ChatGPT, which is kind of interesting. It has a scan document app, which is to, if you want to scan like physical documents. It's pretty neat. App manager, this is just a button to lock the screen, I guess. And then a music app, which I didn't use. The browser, which I also didn't use. Voice recorder. I can see that being used to record voice notes. And then YouTube and Geekbench 6. So let's try Geekbench 6. I don't know. I haven't actually run this yet. Again, this is not going to be a remotely fair comparison, assuming this actually runs on here. We have Geekbench on the Z Fold 6 and Geekbench on the Bigme. So let's run both of them and we'll see how fast it runs through there. I don't think it's going to be remotely close. I think the Z Fold 6 is going to destroy this one, which is what you would expect, but we'll see. And I also don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know for sure, but part of me thinks when you run these benchmarks that how fast it runs is indicative of how much more powerful the system is. Like you see, I'm already at 9% on this one, and on the Bigme, we're still at 0%. And I started them roughly the same time. It took so long to turn the screen off. It does say Android 11 on there, which is interesting. The screen went to sleep, so it canceled. All right, I think you get the point, right? Like it was still at 0%, this is at 21%. So it's not even gonna be a close competition at all. I guess if we do look at Geekbench though, we'll tell you what the actual OS is, Android 11 and the CPU. And it's 4 cores, whereas obviously this is Android 14. It has multiple cores in clusters. And then look at the GPU. Does it test GPU? Yeah, it does say Adreno. And the GPU here is Power VR Rogue. I never heard of that. It says the resolution is 720 by 1440p. That's interesting. The PPI is 160 and this is 376. So you can tell, big difference. But so now let's look at a completely ridiculous test here. We're gonna look at YouTube, and let's just look at my YouTube video course. These are all the pieces I've purchased. So that's pretty fascinating how it looks on there. The audio sounds not bad. The display is kind of terrible for this purpose. Just to give you an example, let me just play the same video. Yeah, it says Razer desktop build what we're watching there. So you can see it's pretty crazy difference there. It is kind of neat watching on here, but again, it's nothing you're gonna want to do on an extended period of time. Like, this is a high-end display, right? High-end device, and this is not meant for video purposes. But it does work. So, you could watch videos on there if you wanted to. And again, it is kind of a neat look at how it looks now. So you can see, like I said, technically it works, but it's not something you're gonna want to do. Now you do want to watch my videos, the good stuff. You're gonna love them. All right, so here we have the Bigme versus the Samsung S25 Ultra. Again, not a fair comparison, but I want to show one of the original reasons I thought this device would be good for us. So my son likes, what do you call it? Amine, I think is the term. And he reads the comic book version of Amine, something about mangoes. Is that right?
And look like an idiot on YouTube.
All right, so he likes the mangas. I showed you the K-manga app won't even install here, but Shonen Jump will install here. So I'll let you give his thoughts. Now keep in mind, he's basically a monkey that I raised to be human. So his thoughts aren't gonna be as eloquent, as well-spoken as mine. All right, dance monkey.
I'm the eldest boy!
Obviously, if you want to read colored comics, this is not the way to go. But since the colors on this are black and white.
This does have colors, just very faint.
Yeah, well, it's not the best way to read colors.
It's definitely, well, it depends on what kind of lens you will look at, but go ahead.
But if you're going to read something in black and white, one of the main requirements for that is that you need strong contrast. The colors on here are too dull and they blend together too much. The black and the white turn both into gray, and it's not enough contrast for the pictures to stand out, especially see the text blended into the background a little bit too much compared to something here where it's clear.
So it's just not sharp, it's kind of washed out looking, which is what you kind of expect for Hibreak, but I thought he'd be more into it, but he doesn't. He just likes this guy. He's had the Samsung Ultra series for a couple of years now. Any other thoughts on this before we...
Well, if you're reading manga, it usually doesn't take that long to read a single page, so you have to swipe pretty constantly, and this is a slow transition when swiping compared to...
Yeah, like the general slowness, right? So if you're reading a book on this, that's not that big deal. You're not changing pages on a book as fast as you would on something like this.
You can also see that when you rotate, how long it takes to rotate compared to...
All right, so you can see, like I said, it wasn't the best for that either. But the S25 Ultra is a great phone. I have a video on some cases if you want to check that out. All right, so let's go and wrap this up. So personally, I thought this might be good for comic books, but I don't really read comic books anymore. I did a lot when I was a kid, and I thought maybe the color template on here would be good for that. But based on the opinion of a spoiled boy, it's not as good. So in closing, this won't get a lot of use from me. I do think it's cool, and I'm interested to see how much better the e-ink segment will get. But also, I'm a person who used a folding phone for several years. I've had the Z Fold, I want to say 3, 4, 5, and 6. I want big screens, right? So when you open this folding phone up, you're almost 8 inches.
Oh, no.
Now, my laptops are 17 inches and 18 inches. My computer monitor is 38 inches, and my TV is 75 inches. I got a bigger TV, but I don't think it would fit on the wall that I have it. Generally, I want the biggest screen I can possibly get. So if this Bigme device was the size of my Kindle or a bit larger, I could see a much better use case for it. But using it in the traditional phone shape is not something I'm looking for. Like I said, I use the Samsung Z Fold 6, and when I got my son the Samsung S25 Ultra, although that's a great phone, I can't imagine going back to the regular candy bar phone shape. I'm so used to the Fold, that's the only thing I can use at this point. But again, I think this is a cool device, and if you're looking for something a little different and a little easier on the eyes, this could be for you. All right, that's it. Thanks for checking me out. Thanks to Bigme for sending this over. Subscribe to 5 Extra 12, subscribe to Stuff Mike Bot, and don't ever subscribe to Mash IT. All right, thanks.